Hey guys, what's going on? This is Alex over here at My Freedom Smokes, and today we're going to do another question corner video. Now, this wasn't something that anyone specifically requested for, but it's been something that's been on my mind because I do answer emails and phone calls all day long. So I hear from you customers a lot. So I start kind of taking a mental log of the things I hear all the time. And probably the number one question I always get asked is, I've got this tank and this mod. Are they going to work together? This is a very, very simple question to be answered because all you have to do is take a look at the devices you already have. So we're going to go through a few different things, showing you what threading is and picking the right replacement heads for your tanks. So first thing we're going to talk about is your threading. Now, you want to say, I've got the CE4 tank, will it fit on my mini volt? Well, no, it's not, and I'll tell you why. Your CE4 tank is going to be ego threaded. Ego threadings are the threadings that you see on the perimeter of your battery, like so. So this tank is going to fit on this just fine. See? We're good to go. Now, if you want to take this tank and put it on a new mod, well, I hope you wouldn't be doing this all day long trying to get it to fit, would you? Exactly, because the threading that goes down inside is called the 510 threads. 510 threading is the most popular threading on the e-cig market right now. They used to be head-to-head with the ego style, but that was when the pins were big, okay? That's when everyone was wanting a pen battery. They wanted to put it in their pocket, you know, safe travels, very low smoke output, vape output, everything else. But people are really moving toward the bigger clouds, bigger flavor, bigger mods, you know, stuff like that. So they finally agreed on a simple threading for a tank that's going to work on all your devices. So this is a 510 thread. Now, I want you may ask, okay, will this Kangertech tank fit on this battery? Well, technically yes, because you can screw it in like this, like so, but when I press the button, you see that flashing light? That's because the resistance of the tank is too low for the battery, which leads into my next portion, which is resistance. Now, we've already gone through your threading, so now you know what tanks fit on what batteries. You know if you have an ego tank, it has to fit on something with ego threads, and if you have something that's 510 threaded, it has to fit on something that is also 510 threaded. Where it gets a little bit more tricky is your coils and your resistances. Now, these style batteries usually fire all the way down to about 1.2 ohms, which is going to be about your standard resistance between that 1.6 and 1.8 for your regular tanks. Now, you realize what tanks fit with which mods. Like for instance, the 510 tanks work on the 510 mods and the ego tanks have to go on the ego batteries. So the next thing is you have to realize your battery limit. The resistance of your coils are going to play a huge part in your vaping. Tanks like this and the Aspire ET all run between about a 1.8 and a 1.6 ohm, which is going to fire on these older style ego batteries. Now something like this, which is the new Kanger CL tank, I believe this has a 0.5 coil in it. Yeah, it's got a 0.5 coil, which means it's going to be too low to fire on this little battery, because this battery has surge protection on it. Essentially what that means is if the resistance of your atomizer is going to be too low, your battery just isn't going to fire it. It's trying to keep you safe, so don't force it. So if you have something that runs at a 1.8, 1.6, something like that, you'll be able to run that tank on basically any device that you have. When you start going into sub-ohm, which means it's lower than 1.0 ohms, so anything lower than 1 ohm should and always be fired on a new mod. A mod is going to be slightly different than your typical pin style, like I show here. This is the mini volt. I've gotten 2 of them. I've beaten this one all to death. It's probably one of my favorites. This can go all the way up to 40 watts, which means I can fire down to about, I think, 0.2 or 0.3 ohms, which is really good. So we would recommend, if you're definitely wanting to go into the sub-ohming direction, make sure and get a mod that has a minimum of about 30 to 40 watts, because 30 watts will fire your 0.5, but the more watts you get, the more you're going to be able to vape unlimited. Now, the one last tricky thing in this, and especially with the sub-tanks, is going to be your temperature control. Now, this is where things get a little bit more difficult. When you're looking at your tanks and you're looking at your resistances, you might see a few that say Ni 200 0.05, stuff like that. Those are the temperature control coils and can only be used on temp control mods. Now, if you're just wanting to know answers about your ego pins and your tanks, you can just go ahead and turn this video off now, because we hope we've already explained that to you. This part is for the people looking to advance and do temp control. You need to make sure that your mod has temp control capabilities and you're not using it on a mechanical mod, simply because there is more information that coil has to send to your mod in order for it to make proper vaping. If you just put it straight into a mechanical mod, even the best 18650 batteries on the market are going to fail because it is not prepared to heat up that sort of wire. An easy way to tell if your coils are temp control or not is, number one, the resistance. If it's lower than about a 0.5 or a 0.2, more than likely it's going to be a temp control coil, and you want to check on that. Second way to realize is you've got little O-rings and bands on your replacement coils. Typically for the Ni 200, which are your nickel coils, they're going to have a blue band on it. And for basically any of the others, they vary between red, burgundy, and black. So you're going to want to take a look at those and figure out exactly what you have, as you don't want to make sure and mess anything up. Last question being, last statement, overall blanket statement for all this is, okay, I've got the Aspire ET tank. What coils do I get for it? Okay, well, most of the time you can go to our website, take a look at the tanks, and in the product description we will have a link for the correct coil heads. If we don't, it's also as simple as going to our website, finding the name of the brand that you have, clicking it, and just take a look at our photos. Take a look at the box you already have, because you have to make sure and get compatible products for each of your systems. Say you've got an iPhone, okay? You wouldn't want to get an Android charger for it, would you? You can't put Android apps on your iPhone unless you jailbreak it, but you have to get Apple products for Apple things and Android products for Android things. Otherwise, it just won't work. Same thing with your coils and heads. Aspire has to have Aspire coils. Kanger has to have Kanger coils, so on and so forth. There are very, very, very rare exceptions to this, but we always do make note of that on the website. I think, for instance, the iJust 2 tank actually takes the Aspire Atlantis heads. So that would be one situation where it doesn't 100% fall with that rule, but I would say at least a good 99% of the time, you got to get the Kanger stuff with Kanger, and you got to get the Aspire stuff with Aspire. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of information in here. You might have some additional questions, and that's fine. Leave some comments below, and we'll be more than happy to help out anyone that has some questions. Not to mention, we do have our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. If you're really into social networking and you've got all those accounts, make sure to follow us. Not only does it give us better numbers, but it puts our product in front of you. That way you can always stay updated with the latest and greatest deals we've got going right here at My Freedom Smokes. So, this has been Alex with another Question Corner, and if you have questions, please send them over. We'll put it right here. It's going to be questioncorner@myfreedomsmokes.com. And thank you for vaping.